Welcome, everybody, to all those that are members of the class from Lindenwood. I see that you're letting me know that you're here in the chat, so that's great. Today we do have a lineup of 3 topics, as you can probably see on the screen already. I think 2 of which were submitted last week and 1 was submitted this week. I'm not exactly quite sure. I'm losing track a little bit. But here we are in week 7, which means we only have a week and a half of the class left. We're kind of in the glide path toward the end, and that's really, really cool. Always like to see a good, fast ending and getting to move on to the next class and the next exciting next classes that you can be part of. So if there's any questions before we really get a good start, go ahead and put them in the chat. We can handle them, or like usual, post those questions at any time, and let me know that you want to talk, and we'll do that. Now today, the first topic I'm going to cover is one that was submitted. It's kind of a funky looking website. It's a startup company, and this splash screen here was really not much. Not much of a screen at all. I mean, the web page went a whole, there's the bottom. There really wasn't much here unless you're able to read the text here. And I don't have an account, and I didn't want to create one, so I just looked them up and went to their website, and that's where we'll get the information. But I don't know. Can you tell just by their looks that they're British? Kind of bouncing around. They're not hugging, which is critical also. So I went to their
British,
website.
Huh?
What?
British.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anyway, so I went to their website to learn about Marley Bones and figure out what was really going on with Marley Bones. And Marley Bones really, I've noticed in certain industries that in order to get into that premium category where everybody really respects the premium value of your product and is willing to pay you more for it, you have to be able to, put up or shut up, You have to be able to prove that your product really is what you say it is. So that was the challenge that Marley Bones had. They had a fussy dog. They felt that current off-the-shelf brands of dog food weren't really the best brands of dog food for their animal. And of course, Marley is a little pooch that looks a lot like the dog that I had when I was growing up. Mine was a little cocker that looked almost exactly like the dog in the picture. So what they wanted to do in their premium brand, of course, is to put in premium products. There are several of these brands all around the world, but they needed to be able to say, yes, we did in fact put those products in, and this is the proof. And what they did was, as they detailed out their product and showed their dog, of course, and of course the dog has to tell you about the owners here, and it's really cute. They've got a really, really cute webpage, and really that's all they have to do, because when you go to Marley Bones, the blockchain side of their business, which is really what we're interested in, what they do in order to link their product to the blockchain is what they want to do is show that the products were sourced and actually put in the dog food that they're selling from premium sources, and not just all the stuff that kind of makes you wonder if dogs really like that stuff when you read the label. It's pretty awful. But here, the picture here tells the whole story. What they do is they put a QR code on the side of each of their products. The QR code links to a website called provenance.org and allows you then to see their provenance of all of their products. There are two or three companies, 2 of which I know of for sure, both Provenance and Storybird, that link to blockchains to then display to customers the path that each of their products took from harvesting, whether it's vegetables and such, to the place where it's manufactured and then shipped to the customer. So this is just another one of those companies like Storybird, now there's Provenance, that basically just gives a display on a cell phone. So you get a QR code reader for your phone. The QR code reader takes you to that particular product's provenance, and it's a list of where those products actually originated before they went into the product you're holding in your hand. Now this, I've seen this done with fine wines, with dog food now, and with seafood in another case. So it's getting started in getting some traction where companies, if they really want to show what their products are doing, they'll let the customer actually read a QR code off the product and see where all those things have come. And in the case of those three that I mentioned, the wine and the seafood and here, it all starts with a QR code on the side of the product. Yes, Robert?
Yeah, it seems to solve one of the problems that the organics industry has had for a while. A lot of foods say they are organic or certified organic, but the question is, what does organic actually mean? And yeah, the USDA is kind of pushed into that space to kind of tell what's organic or what's not. But if you are specific about your food, about what ingredients go into your food, about where it was grown, what nutrients were in the soil, whatever else, this sort of thing really helps put your mind at ease so you can buy organic and be assured that it actually has the kind of ingredients you're looking for.
Yeah, right now when I look at a label that says organic, I say, so what? That's
it's
just a
marketing.
Label. Yeah, that's just a label. But yeah, when you know exactly the farm that it came from, then you could do research on that farm yourself to find where whether they really do farm organically, if that's a concern for you. So that's our first topic. Let's go ahead and, Robert, let's shift gears.
Okay.
And the next one we're going to go to is this article that was submitted. And I know one of you is kind of a not very much a lover of Salesforce, but I'm going to go ahead and feature Salesforce here because they are trying to move into the blockchain space. And as we go through this, you'll see it's a little bit, it gives me the impression that they're just really getting started in it. And they're hoping people start adopting their flavor of Salesforce with a blockchain back end. And you'll see that as I demo it. So in this particular article was not from Salesforce. It was linked by Salesforce, but it was written off of a blog called Be in Crypto. And the paragraph that's really the concern here is that blockchain is undergoing a wave of adoption across different sectors, with customer relationship management remaining a top priority for many companies. Well, okay, that's fine. And then he says that, blockchain has proved to be very good in places like healthcare and gaming and consulting. So while they kind of tiptoe around the idea that CRM would be good for this, I felt I needed to go to Salesforce and see if they're actually doing anything with blockchain. So I went here to one of their pages. It is one of their Salesforce blogs called the 360 blog, and it basically is introducing the Salesforce blockchain. Now, it says create trusted partner networks on the #1 CRM platform. So basically what they're doing is they're deploying a version of Salesforce that doesn't have a relational backend, that the data structure here becomes a blockchain distributed ledger backend, which then allows you to build a network where your suppliers, where your customers are also linked with a version of the application where they can put in data and information, and you can keep track of your contacts, and then they can also communicate with you back to let you know that you need a sales call, you need somebody to come by and teach a training class, or you need to do whatever your business requires for that particular customer. Now, a lot of times we're talking about larger customers. Boeing uses Salesforce, for example. They use the regular version of Salesforce, but they've found it to be quite effective in being able to link to customers that are, frankly, buy millions and sometimes billions of dollars worth of product in one order. So usually Salesforce is meant for those larger companies that have those type of customers. You wouldn't use it, for example, for a one outlet, pet food store in the middle of a city. You'd probably use a scaled down version of another software for that. But here's where we go a little bit off the rails with Salesforce. Here it says Salesforce Blockchain is powered by Lightning. Well, what's Lightning? It doesn't really give a whole lot of explanation what Lightning is. And so I'm wondering, is it the Lightning add-on to Bitcoin that they're talking about, which is a side chain to the Bitcoin blockchain? I don't know. What I try to do is dig a little bit more, and what I found is Lightning is their Salesforce platform that actually uses blockchain. And so what it does here is this is another promo page for how to get into the blockchain version of their Salesforce application to build your application for your network, and put the kind of features in it that you need. And you scroll down a little farther and it talks about the various pieces and parts of this Lightning software for Salesforce, including a sandbox where you can develop and not actually have it be in production, a development environment that you can work with. So, yes, Robert.
Oh, I just wanted to say that Mike says that he hates Salesforce.
Yeah, okay, Mike.
And says that Lightning is their new interface and it's terrible.
I guess you're stuck in a job that forces you to use it, right?
I can imagine so.
Okay. Yeah, that happens. I can say that about a lot of products that Boeing is getting off the shelf, COTS off the shelf.
And a lot of times, the pain of the integration just falls squarely on all the employees who have to figure it out, especially when, guess what? It doesn't quite work for our applications, but gotta make it work anyway.
Or it didn't have the bells and features that we had in our previous application that was developed in-house specifically for us so that we could do what we really needed to do.
Yes.
But we're stuck with this crap that they bought off the shelf. Anyway, but I'm not saying that about Salesforce necessarily. I'm just, I'm sure it's the same challenge with any COTS type of package. It has certain features and it doesn't have certain features. If you want the features it doesn't have, you got to figure out how to either bolt it on or you've got to do without. And so then at that point it's up to your IT department to go from there. So this is Salesforce's venture into blockchain. And so that's the end of this topic. Gotcha. He says, their interface bucks every trend that is Interface Design 101. Oof. That's what I find true, too, about a lot of these COTS packages. So I'm going to go on a sidebar here.
That's because they sell to the managers. They don't sell to the employees. The managers just look at their list of needs and look at the sales pitch list, and if they match, they buy it, right? They aren't selling to the employees who actually need to use it.
That's true. That is true. All right, I'm going to go on a 2-minute break here and prepare for the next section. The next section is going to be a little bit longer. That's why I saved it for last, to know exactly how much time I have left. But I'm definitely not going to take a whole 45 minutes with it. Okay? Talk to you in 2 minutes. gotta be kidding me. Whoa. Okay. I went ahead and looked up or actually Robert helped me looking up the Illinois comment that was made in the chat window. You've got to be kidding. Really? I mean, how in the world do they expect an immutable product to become also all of a sudden unimmutable? Okay. So what this, for those of you who haven't seen this yet, it's basically has been ridiculed by the crypto community over its unworkable plans to force blockchain miners and validators to do impossible things such as reversing transactions. Okay. Which, I'm just at a loss. I go, okay, would simply apply to any blockchain network that processes a blockchain transaction originating in the state. So you can't have any customers in Illinois, folks, if this becomes law. This is just so funny. Down here there was another statement. Bill also appears to mandate any persons using a smart contract to deliver goods and services to include code in the smart contract that can be used to comply with court orders. So
no Marley Bones in Illinois.
I guess no Marley Bones in Illinois. You've got it. Really, you've got to be kidding. I don't know what to say. I'm totally speechless on this one. Ridicule. Yeah, that's crypto analyst Fubar wrote in his 120,000 Twitter followers, wrote to them that court-ordered transactions would need to somehow be amended without needing the private key of the participants, which he considers to be hilarious. Yeah, exactly. Upon valid request from the Attorney General or a state's attorney made pursuant to the substantive or procedural law of the state, a court may order any appropriate blockchain transactions for digital property or for the execution of a smart contract.
This feels like the answer to tell me you don't know anything about blockchain without telling me you don't know anything about blockchain.
Yeah, exactly. Show your ignorance by proposing a bill that can't be done. Oh, man. Try to ban immutability on blockchains. Okay, people adopt blockchains because they're immutable. So, in other words, basically they're just saying, if you've got a customer in Illinois, sorry, you can't have a customer in Illinois.
But even further, this is all blockchains. We're talking about all blockchains, not just cryptocurrency, which means
supply chains.
Every supply chain, every CRM, everything. Wow.
Okay. Thank you for providing a little bit of humor. Who passed that one on?
That was Preston.
Okay. The only thing this smacks of is we don't want you to know what we're really doing, so no immutability.
Yeah.
And so he's going to say that, no California DMV records would be originated in Illinois, would they?
No, luckily not, I guess.
Okay.
But does that mean that if you buy a car in California, you can't drive to Illinois? Who knows how?
Because if you have to transfer the title,
So
you've got to do a transaction.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, so no California car could be sold in Illinois.
There you go. Yeah, because you can't transfer title.
Oh, gosh.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. Justin says, sounds like Illinois wants to go back to torches and wagons.
Well, yeah. Visit downtown Chicago and you can see that's probably more true than not.
Oof.
Bluest of blue states, at least Chicago is the bluest of blue states, put it that way. It's terrible. Okay, very good. That's a bit too much humor. I almost can't even go on. That one's wow. That one's just incredible. All right. This next article is really the main part of the show here. What I did here is I put it into Word. It's the 7 ways to advance blockchain in the enterprise. Now, this is the topic of the master's course in 15 minutes or so, because the master's course actually dives deep into blockchain deployment within an enterprise and seeks to help managers learn what are the features, what is good about blockchain, what is bad about blockchain, what's difficult, what's easy, that type of thing. So a lot of the information that's in here is really knowledge that I'm going to give you straight out of that master's course, because the guy that wrote the book that is the basis of this article really is spot on. And frankly, the book I've got for that master's course is getting a little bit aged. And so I'm going to pick up this book. So thank you for the person who submitted this one, because I'm going to go ahead and pick up his book, and it may be the book for the next master's, for the master's course. I may replace the old one. So here we go. So this particular one is Quiet Matters, is the way Beth titled this one. She says, with the right tactics, companies can overcome the organizational, economic, and interoperability challenges of incorporating blockchains into operations. That is almost kind of a negative way to say that there's challenges with blockchain, but they can be overcome if you really want to do a blockchain. So you can kind of tell the tone of this particular article, that basically she's not all that bought into it, but she read this book and she's going to share what the book is all about. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to first talk about what she labels as her barriers, and these are absolutely valid barriers to adoption. First one is the technological front. There are challenges with some blockchains. You've got to get a blockchain vendor that chooses the right validations.
Proof of work, proof of stake.
Yes. Consensus
that
mechanism.
word, yes.
Yes. You gotta get the right consensus method, because the right consensus method really is the one that either burdens the blockchain and makes it slow, such as the proof of work, which is the slowest of all the consensus methods, to some of the much more innovative consensus methods that are usually used within enterprise blockchains, where the validation of the individual is done based on the account that they hold and that they're given at the time they join the blockchain. So because the people involved in the blockchain are already trusted individuals, the consensus method can be much, much lighter than the consensus method for a public blockchain. So yes, there's a technological challenge, and you've got to make sure that you do that piece right. Okay. Now, it also mentions you have to select the degree of decentralization, and then you have to adequately and accurately tokenize the assets that are going to be tracked and distributed throughout the blockchain. Because tokenization in an enterprise blockchain is about two things. It's about paying the people that do the work on the blockchain, and it's also about keeping track of the facts and data that move through the blockchain as well. So yes, on the technological front, there's some key points that you've got to get right when you first plan out how you're going to implement the blockchain. And then there's economic concerns. It's got to make sense. It's just got to make sense from a financial standpoint. We talked a little bit earlier about TradeLens being sunset after being operating for about 5 years. Now, the reason it was sunset is because the way it was currently constituted, it wasn't making enough money as an entity by itself to be able to be divorced from Maersk, and Maersk was still having quite a financial burden because of it. And because of that financial burden, when a downturn in shipping happened, they had to cut the budget, and TradeLens ended up being cut as one of those budget considerations. So it was good while things were going well, and it probably would have lasted well into the several years beyond now had the severe downturn of the recession not happened. So there is a significant economic concern, and I'll touch on how you can make sure that economic return actually becomes viable. So in a bullet point a little later on. So from an organizational standpoint, there's two ways you can implement a blockchain. It can be tracking just internal things, and we'll talk about those internal things in another bullet point, or it can be used for recruiting other competitors and other people who could use the viability of the blockchain because you use common suppliers, or you use common people to sell to, or all different types of facets of your business. If you're in a common industry, it makes sense to cluster together and cooperate and collaborate as much as possible. Blockchain allows that, but it is a hurdle to get over. TradeLens, when we watched it, it took the first year to get about the first 3 or 4 people, and their biggest competitor, Hapag Lloyd, didn't join until they saw other people joining, and they could feel safe that Maersk wasn't just collecting their data and using it. They needed to see that it was distributed enough that they felt comfortable joining. Once they joined, we had a good body of 16 total companies that were part of TradeLens. But to get to that level of decentralization does take an organizational shift mentally to be able to adopt on that way. It also takes an internal stretch to be able to adopt, and so you've got to socialize this within the company. So those are the main 3 challenges that you have, that you make sure that you do well at the very beginning before you go launching into the adoption. So that's well written. So here's the 7 items that you need to be considerate of in order to move forward. First, you gotta find the right use case. If all you're adopting blockchain for is the fear of missing out, in other words, my competitor deployed a blockchain and they sound like they're super duper technologically advanced, so I better do it. No, you do it because it makes financial sense. You do any IT project because it makes financial sense. The financial benefit of adopting is significant enough to warrant the expense and the time and the effort that you're going to put forward to deploy a blockchain. So it's important that you get the use case right. The next is create a strategy for your legacy systems. This system is going to have to collaborate with the rest of the systems in your organization. So if you have an accounting system in your organization, and this particular software is going to manage your supply chain, and there's costs associated with managing your supply chain, such as late products or costs involved in getting shipping, overnight shipping, or something on a late product coming to you, any one of a number of things, they have to bolt in with your legacy system and talk and collaborate. So you've got to have a good strategy that lays out your critical systems and says the information that we're going to put in the blockchain came from this system, and this system interacted with all these other systems. Therefore, the blockchain also has to interact with those systems, and you have to build your plan with that in mind. Okay? You have to establish whether or not it's going to have an internal focus or an external. Here's an example of an internal focus where they say proving certain processes such as safety steps. So let's say you've got a critical safety inspection arm of your business. Boeing, for example, in military has certain inspection points that are mandated by the government on all of their gear that we sell them, whether it be a helicopter or a fighter jet or a trainer jet or any of those things. They've got certain mandated inspections that have to be passed, and blockchain would be perfect for all of that data to be collected and collated in an immutable record that could then reside on the server to be pulled up anytime the military inspector comes and wants to take a look at our inspection logs. Now, commercial inspection logs are important as well. So Commercial also has a full safety arm that they have to make sure and provide documentation that all of the planes were put together in a specific order according to the plan, and if any rework had to be done, all that had to be documented. I mean, if a plane goes down, we've got to show that the plane was well built and put together. And if it wasn't, if there was a problem with the plane and we knew about it, the liability goes one way or another and would come back to Boeing if we couldn't show adequate records. So internally, there's a lot of business cases that could be said for collecting data in a blockchain type of data structure. Externally, healthcare records have been done a lot. There's a lot of hospitals, especially a big one in Japan, where most of the country of Japan is all linked together with a healthcare system that has collaborative record keeping, and through the private key of the individual, that person can give a particular doctor access to all of their records with just a few strokes on their cell phone. So it's really, really cool. I did another article on that on the channel. So there's insurance companies, payers, specialists, all kinds of people. So you need to establish whether or not the particular blockchain you're implementing is going to be internal or external. Recommendation would be deploy an internal one first. Find out how this creature works that's a blockchain. Find out what doesn't work. Find out and learn through an internal one first, and then you can deploy an external one. Do a cost-benefit analysis. That goes right along with the find the right use case. If you find the right use case, it'll have a good cost-benefit ratio. The cost will be less than the expected benefit. Now, I would not advise anybody to jump off the agile boat here and do a cost-benefit analysis that was so detailed it's going to be exactly this, or it's over budget. A cost-benefit analysis should be a ROM, so to speak, where you find out, in rough order of magnitude, whether there's enough benefit on one side to justify the costs on the other side. My throat's having a hard time coming back.
I'm sorry about that. I was actually going to say, close to that, it is very easy when deploying a blockchain to fall into a very waterfall method of software development. You want to get all the requirements, implement everything, make sure it has all the interoperability. That is one of the downsides of the blockchain, with it being immutable. It's kind of hard to do and redo. But there are some tips coming up here later, especially learning from pilots, that gives you some ideas about how you can still be very agile in developing it incrementally.
Very good. Could you grab a bottle of water on the left-hand side of that shelf? Okay. Then you have to socialize the project within your own company. So you've got to be able to retrieve the right people out of the organizations that can help and give the right kind of expertise as to the kind of business that needs to function with the blockchain so that they can participate and help. Okay. Then, we're not going back to the days of rapid application development, but learning from pilots, we know, is a very effective method where you can put out a prototype and learn from those prototypes as you start deploying bits and pieces and automate certain pieces and parts of your business. So learning from pilots becomes a very significant piece of the puzzle as well, especially if you're going to stick to the agile methodology. You can bust it up into smaller pieces of the blockchain and implement certain parts that need to be automated within your company. And I love this last one. We're all in IT here. We're all friends, right? So the next one says, don't start with IT. In other words, don't bring your favorite blockchain expert IT person in there to tell you how you're going to do it. Basically, it needs to be an MIS function, or a management of information systems function, which is a business function. So basically what you need to do is you have to have a good business case. You have to do your pencil sharpening to figure out what this blockchain is going to do for you. And if you figure out well what it's going to do for you, Then you bring in IT and say, we'd like to see blockchain technology addressing this issue or these issues. And then you bring in IT as your collaborative partner to enable the blockchain and enable the project from that point forward. So that becomes an incredibly important thing. So basically you've done the other 6, well, not learning from pilots, but you've done the 5 prior to learning from pilots and bringing in information technology to do the things the way they're supposed to be done. And you should end up being successful after the end of the journey. So
yeah, this is such a paradigm shift, going from using relational databases, whatever data storage method you have, to a blockchain, that you can't do it just from the IT side. This is like going from waterfall to agile and not letting management know.
That doesn't work.
That doesn't work at all. The same thing here. You can't change over to blockchain without first getting the management to understand what this new paradigm is.
Absolutely. So, do we have some questions in here? I see one from Lori.
Yeah,
It's kind of,
it looks like.
Off this particular topic. So I think I'll close this topic off.
Okay.
And by the way, if we look up the book that that it was taken out of, Enterprise Strategy for Blockchain is the book. It was published just last year in October, so it's got some good, up-to-date, hopefully relevant information. I've looked at the table of contents in the book, and it appears to address all the issues that I'm concerned about when I'm teaching the class. So, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and pick up the book and read through it and see if it's the next book for the master's course. So, that's it. All right, Lori says, this is way off topic, but now there is an effort for most of Illinois to secede so they have a voice outside of Chicago and Cook County. That's so true. Oregon is trying to secede and join Idaho. Northern California, for a long time, has wanted to become a state called Jackson. Eastern Washington has had the same idea that Oregon has of wanting to secede because they don't want policy set in Seattle. Oregon doesn't want policy set in Portland. And, California's getting frustrated about all the policies being set down in Sacramento that kowtows to Los Angeles or San Francisco constantly. Yeah, there's a lot of desire among a lot of areas of the country to section off the like-minded folks to maintain their own states so that they can maintain their own type of government. Whether or not it'll be successful remains to be seen. Oregon, in particular, is the one I'm most familiar with. Oregon, in particular, has said that this one might actually make it through because when Portland looks at their budget, they've got to apply a significant amount of budget to the eastern side of Oregon. Well, the eastern side of Oregon doesn't pay that much taxes to Portland. So this one might actually move forward simply because the revenue situation would be made better for Portland. And frankly, at that point in time, they'd join Idaho, their taxes would go there, and a lot of the services that they don't want anymore would be taken out, and they'd be happy with that. So there are a lot of those type of issues happening throughout the country. And frankly, I hope that a few of them start becoming successful. They have to be approved by both of the seceding parties. In other words, in the Oregon's case, there are 11 counties, and 9 of which have voted affirmatively to exit the state. The other 3 have a ballot coming up where they'll get a chance to vote, and it's winning at this point. What has to happen is that those seceding counties have to vote and be positive about it, and then the Portland side of the country, the state, has to agree as well. They think that both of those will happen. Then it gets sent to the Congress, and then Congress has to approve the divorce and the marriage with Idaho if that's the way they go, or they create a separate state, whatever happens. But then the Congress has to approve it to go forward as well. And you can imagine what they're going to be looking at is how many congressional seats are we going to win? Or are we going to lose? You know, that it's going to be that kind of political mess at that point. And whether that would be approved I don't know. So, Robert?
Yeah, my thoughts on it are just like my thoughts when it comes to IT development or anything else. I like small incremental changes. I like people being able to make their own decisions and try things out. And you know what? Eastern Oregon might completely flop. It might be in some real hard times, but then the rest of the country will learn. So, you know, all these movements that as people move around the country to be with people more like them, you know, more power to them. I hope Illinois doesn't decide to pass this bill. But if they do, we'll find out if it's a net positive or net negative for Illinois, and the rest of the country can learn from it.
Yeah, like the gun bill they just passed, where 98% of all the sheriffs said, no.
Yeah, and
not going to enforce
there's
it.
Another political level of whether the law will be passed and whether the law will be enforced.
Yeah, exactly. All right, any other questions, folks? It's getting hot in here again. Yeah. My studio gets hot. It gets up to 80 degrees in here when the rest of the house is 72. Got to figure out how to fix that. All right. If there are not any more questions, let's call for roll call at the end.
Okay.
And I'll stay right here for any other questions that arise just before we go.
Okay. Yeah, there was another, on another technology-related subject, you talk about states doing different things. California, as we know, for the last several years, has been pushing more and more towards electric vehicles. And in a very tightly packed state like California that can put charging stations everywhere, it's very good for them. But then I believe it was Wyoming who's pushing a bill going the opposite direction, banning electric charging stations over there. And from what I understand, there was actually some real problems, weather-related, as well as just how sparse it is up there, that bringing electric vehicles, they aren't going to work in Wyoming.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, try to drive 700 miles to the next gas station.
Right, which is just going to introduce some real fundamental problems between Wyoming and California. I don't think there's very many Californians vacationing in Wyoming these days, but it just creates further separation.
Yeah, Wyoming probably prefers it that way.
And vice versa.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Although Montana does get quite a lot of California visitors over in the, Yellowstone side of Montana.
That's what I hear, yeah.
All righty, folks. I'm going to go ahead and put my ending screen here, and I'll just wait until everybody logs off, and then we'll see you next week.